In UX, we usually focus on finding and fixing the big, show-stopping usability problems that totally block users from being able to complete a task. If your users can't sign up or finish the checkout process, you lose the sale, and often the user too. So even if you have to slow them down a little to make sure that they can figure things out, that's usually a reasonable trade-off. It's a little different for workplace apps that people use for their jobs. They don't get a choice whether or not to use your product. It's part of their work. In this world, I've heard a lot of bad UX excused with the phrase, well, our users don't have a choice, so they'll figure it out. And there is some truth to that, though it's obviously not so simple. In this kind of situation, we have to think of usability differently than we do in consumer-grade apps or websites, where users can walk away and try a competitor if they get frustrated. Because users are forced to work with the product no matter how bad it is, usability becomes less about major show-stopping roadblocks and more about making their day-to-day easier and more efficient. That means that we often have to balance trade-offs. Instead of just focusing on short-term learnability, we might care about long-term efficiency. Or even better, we might focus on reducing the burden on their working memory and cognition so they make fewer mistakes. They can devote more of their brain power to the work itself, not the interface. The human brain isn't getting an upgrade anytime soon. For example, let's say you have a big form that people fill out to apply for insurance. Not every single question is applicable for every user. There are totally different questions for car insurance than homeowners insurance or boat insurance. Since consumers might only fill out this form once or twice, we would probably optimize this for visual clarity. We want the applicable questions to be easy to find and understandable. We might even use a wizard where we break it into steps to give more context and explanation to each question. It's a little slower, but much easier to understand. But for an insurance adjuster who might need to fill out the same form 10 times a day or more, we might change our goals for how we optimize this. We might focus on supporting high information density, try to enable them to see as much of the form as they can at once, and limit the amount of information they need to keep in their short-term memory. So we might optimize this in a way that's a little more effort to learn at first, but it's much easier to use for seasoned professionals. There are no free lunches in UX work. We always have to balance pros and cons. But for apps used in the workplace, usability isn't an all-or-nothing thing. Death by 1,000 tiny cuts is a real danger in enterprise UX work.